The stars were cold and quiet in this part of space. Far from any sun, far from any planet, there was only darkness and the soft hum of engines. But inside the ship called the Silent Paw, there was warmth. There was laughter. There was family. Captain Yuna stood at the bridge window, watching the endless black. She was not a tall woman, but she carried herself like someone much larger. Her hair was cut short, practical for space, and her eyes held the kind of calm that only came from surviving terrible things. The soldiers of the coalition called her the Cat because of how she moved, how she watched, how she waited before striking. But her crew called her something else. They called her Mother. She had never asked them to. It had started as a joke from Dawan, her second-in-command, after she had pulled him from a burning transport ship 3 years ago. He had been 17 then, alone, the last survivor of his colony. She had wrapped a blanket around his shoulders and told him he was safe now. He had looked up at her with hollow eyes and whispered, "Thank you, Mother." The name had stuck. And as Yuna collected more strays, more orphans, more broken children of the burning war, the family had grown. There were 12 of them now. 12 young soldiers who had lost everything before finding each other. Dohan was the oldest at 22, quiet and serious, with hands that never shook even when death was close. He followed Yuna like a shadow and would have walked into fire for her without hesitation. Yoonji was the pilot. She was small and fast, with quick fingers and quicker reflexes. Before the war, she had wanted to race ships. Now she used those same skills to keep them alive. She had been 15 when Yuna found her hiding in the cargo hold of a refugee ship, the only survivor of a Valkyrie attack on her home station. Taiwu was the engineer, a young man who understood machines better than people. He talked to the Silent Paw like it was a living thing, and somehow the ship always answered. Yuna had found him in a scrapyard, building weapons from garbage to fight back against the aliens who had taken his family. And there were 9 others. Mai-Rei, who was gentle and kind but deadly with a medical kit. Jiwoo, who could hack any system ever built. Sungho, who never missed a shot. Hana, who could fix anything with enough tape and hope. Each one had a story. Each one had scars. And each one had found a home on the Silent Paw. The Valkyrie had taken so much from humanity in the past 5 years. They were an insect-like species from the far side of the galaxy, and they did not understand mercy. They did not understand surrender. They only understood consumption. They ate worlds. They ate hope. And they were winning the war. But Yuna had learned something important in her years of fighting. The Valkyrie were strong. They were many. But they did not understand love. They did not understand family. And that made them weak in ways they could never see. The door to the bridge slid open, and Dohan walked in. He moved quietly, as always, and came to stand beside her at the window. "The crew is ready," he said. Coalition Command sent the mission details. Yuna nodded but did not turn from the stars. "Tell me." Research Station Omega-7. 300 civilians, mostly scientists and their families. The Valkyrie are pushing into that sector. Command wants us to get them out before the enemy arrives. Simple extraction? That's what they say. Yuna finally looked at him. Damhan's face was calm, but she had known him long enough to see the worry in his eyes. "But you don't believe them." "I believe that Command has been wrong before. I believe the Valkyrie are smarter than we give them credit for. And I believe that nothing in this war has ever been simple." She smiled, small but real. "I taught you well. You taught me to survive." He paused. "Mother." The words still made something warm bloom in her chest, even after all this time. She had never wanted children before the war. She had been a soldier, focused only on duty and honor. But the war had changed her, as it had changed everyone. And when she looked at Doan, at Yoonji, at all of them, She knew that she would burn down the galaxy to keep them safe. "Gather everyone," she said. "I want to talk to them before we jump." 20 minutes later, all 12 of her crew stood in the common room. It was a small space, made smaller by the supplies and equipment stored along the walls, but they fit. They always fit. Yuna stood at the center, looking at each face in turn. There was Yunji, bouncing slightly on her feet, eager to fly. Taiwu, already calculating fuel consumption in his head. Mireille, checking her medical bag one more time. Jiwoo, fingers twitching toward the computer terminal. Sungho, cleaning his rifle with practiced care. And the others, each one ready, each one willing to follow her into darkness. "This mission should be easy," Yuna began. 300 civilians. One jump in, one jump out. But we all know that easy is a word for people who haven't been paying attention. A few small laughs rippled through the group. "I'm not going to lie to you. I never have. The Valkyrie are getting bolder. They're learning our patterns, predicting our movements. This could be a trap." It probably is a trap. She let that sink in. But those civilians are real. Those families are real. And they are counting on us. "So we go anyway," Doran said. It was not a question. "We go anyway," Yuna confirmed. "Because that's who we are. We're the ones who show up when no one else will. We're the ones who fight when the smart move is to run. And we're the ones who never leave anyone behind." She looked at them again, her kittens, her family, her reason for breathing. "I know I ask a lot of you. Every mission, every battle, I ask you to risk everything. And every time, you do it without complaint. I want you to know that I see you. I see your courage. I see your sacrifice. And I am proud to call you my crew." "We're proud to call you our captain," Unji said, and the others nodded. Yuna felt her throat tighten but did not let it show. "Then let's go save some lives. Stations, everyone. We jump in 10 minutes. They scattered to their positions, moving with the smooth efficiency of a team that had done this 100 times before. Yuna watched them go, then turned to face the stars once more. The Valkyrie were out there, waiting, and they had no idea what was coming for them. A mother and her kittens. God help anyone who got in their way. The jump through space was always strange. One moment, the silent paw was surrounded by the familiar darkness of safe territory. The next moment, reality twisted and bent, colors that had no name flashing past the windows. And then they were somewhere else entirely. Unji's hands were steady on the controls as the ship came out of the jump. Her eyes moved across the screens, checking their position, scanning for threats. For half a second, everything looked normal. The research station was there, a small gray dot against the black, its lights blinking slowly. Then the alarm started screaming. "Contact!" Yunji shouted. 3 ships, bearing 270. They're big. Really big. Yuna was already at the tactical display, her heart going cold as the enemy shapes appeared on the screen. 3 Valkyrie dreadnoughts. Each one was the size of a small moon, covered in weapons that could tear planets apart. They had been hiding behind an asteroid field, waiting. "They knew we were coming," Dohun said, his voice flat and hard. "Battle stations," Yuna commanded. "All hands, prepare for combat." The ship came alive around her. Lights changed from white to red. Doors sealed. Weapons powered up with a deep hum that she could feel in her bones. Her crew moved without panic, each one going to their position. Each one trusting that she would find a way to save them. But Yuna was looking at the numbers. And the numbers were very bad. The Silent Paw was a frigate, built for speed and stealth. It was not designed to fight dreadnoughts. 1 dreadnought would have been suicide. 3 was beyond impossible. And between them and the station were 300 civilians who would die if she did nothing. Unji, she said calmly. Evasive pattern Delta. Keep us moving. On it. Captain. The ship twisted hard to the right as the first volley of plasma fire screamed past them. The Valkyrie were testing their range, feeling out their prey. They were in no hurry. They knew they had already won. Taiwu, Yuna continued. I need more power to the engines. Everything you can give me. The engineer's voice came through the speakers, strained but steady. I can boost output by 40%, but it'll burn the engines out in maybe 20 minutes. Less if we take hits. Do it. Captain, what's the plan? Doan asked. He was at the weapons console, tracking the enemy ships. Waiting for her order, Yuna looked at the tactical display one more time. The station was behind them now, its weak shields flickering as the Valkyrie fired warning shots. 300 people. Scientists, engineers, children. They had come to the edge of human space to study the stars. And now they were going to die unless someone saved them, unless she saved them. We put ourselves between the dreadnoughts and the station, Yuna said. We draw their fire. We buy time. The bridge went silent. Everyone understood what she was saying. They would become targets. They would take the hits meant for the station. And they would probably not survive. How long do we need to buy? Yunji asked quietly. The station's emergency signal is broadcasting. Coalition reinforcements will come, but it'll take at least 2 hours. Maybe more. We won't last 2 hours against 3 dreadnoughts, Dohan said. No, Yuna agreed. We won't, but we'll last as long as we can. And every minute we last is a minute those people have to hope. She looked around the bridge at the young faces watching her. They were scared. Of course they were scared. Only fools felt no fear when death was close. But they did not run. They did not cry. They waited for her to tell them what to do. I'm not going to order you to die with me, Yuna said softly. If anyone wants to leave, to take an escape pod and try to reach safety, I won't stop them. I won't think less of them. This is not what any of us signed up for. Nobody moved. We stay with you, Captain, Myray said. Her voice was small but firm. We're a family. Families don't leave each other. She's right, Sung-ho added, checking his rifle even though it would be useless against ships. You saved all of us when no one else would. Now it's our turn to stand with you. One by one, the others nodded. Taiwu in the engine room. Jiwoo at the computer terminal. Hannah at the repair station. All 12 of them, choosing to stay, choosing to fight, choosing to die, if that's what it took. Yuna felt tears burning in her eyes, but blinked them back. There would be time for tears later. Or there wouldn't be time for anything at all. Then let's show these bugs what humans are made of, she said. Yunji, take us in. Dohan, target their weapons arrays. If we can't hurt them, we can at least blind them. Yes, Captain. The silent paw surged forward, engines screaming as Taiwu pushed them beyond safe limits. On the tactical display, 3 massive shapes turned to face them, like giants noticing an insect. Plasma cannons charged. Targeting computers locked on. The first real volley came 2 seconds later. Unji threw the ship sideways, and 2 of the shots missed. The third clipped their shields, and the whole vessel shook like a toy in a giant's hand. Sparks flew from a damaged console. Someone cursed over the intercom. Shields at 70%, Jiwoo reported. Return fire, Yuna ordered. Doan's fingers danced across his console, and the silent paw's gun spoke. Compared to the dreadnoughts, their weapons were tiny, pathetic. But Dohan was the best shot in the fleet, and he found the weak spots. A sensor array exploded on the lead dreadnought. A weapon port on the second went dark dot. It was like a mouse biting an elephant. But the mouse had teeth. They're getting angry, Yunji said, her voice tight. Adjusting formation. They're trying to box us in. Don't let them. Use the debris field. The space around them was full of rocks and broken ships, the remains of battles fought long ago. Yunji dove into the chaos, weaving between asteroids that would crush them if she made a single mistake. The Valkyrie followed, but they were slower, more careful. Their big ships couldn't dance through the debris the way the Silent Paw could. For a few minutes, they had the advantage. Yuna allowed herself to hope that, then the Valkyrie stopped playing games. They're charging main weapons, Dahon said, his voice going hollow. All 3 ships. Full power. Yuna looked at the screen and felt her stomach drop. 3 dreadnoughts, each one preparing to fire everything they had. Not at the station. At her ship. At her family. Time to impact? 12 seconds. 12 seconds. Not enough time to run. Not enough time to hide. Not enough time for anything except one final, desperate act. Yuna made her choice. Yunji, take command, she said, already moving toward the door. Keep them alive as long as you can. Captain? Yunji turned, confusion and fear in her eyes. Where are you going? But Yuna was already gone, running through the corridors of her ship, heading for the airlock. She knew what she had to do. She had always known, from the moment she saw those 3 dreadnoughts appear on the screen. A mother protects her children, no matter the cost. The corridor lights flashed red as Yuna ran. Her boots pounded against the metal floor, each step bringing her closer to the airlock. Behind her, she could hear voices on the intercom, confused and afraid, asking where she was going, what she was doing. She did not answer. There was no time for answers. The emergency equipment locker was next to the airlock. Yuna pulled it open and grabbed what she needed. A spacesuit, thick and heavy, designed for repairs on the outer hull. And next to it, a portable shield generator. It was meant for small jobs, protecting workers from radiation or debris while they fixed damaged sections of the ship. It was never meant for what she was about to do. Captain! Dahan's voice came through the speakers. Captain, what are you doing? The weapons are charging. We have 9 seconds. Yuna pulled on the suit, her fingers moving faster than they ever had before. Helmet sealed, air flowing, magnetic boots activated. Captain, please respond. She grabbed the shield generator and stepped into the airlock. The inner door closed behind her. Through the small window, she could see the corridor she had just left, the ship that had been her home for so long. 7 seconds. Yuna pressed the button to open the outer door. Air rushed out into space, and she stepped through, into the cold and the dark and the silence. The Silent Paw stretched out below her, scarred and smoking from the battle. Beyond it, she could see the 3 dreadnoughts, their massive forms blocking out the stars. And between those forms and her ship, 3 beams of light were forming, growing brighter and brighter as the weapons charged to full power. She had 4 seconds. Yuna activated her magnetic boots and locked herself to the hull. She lifted the shield generator, pointed it at the incoming attack, and turned it on. A bubble of energy formed around her, blue and shimmering. It was small, barely large enough to cover a person. It was never designed to stop a weapon. But Yuna was not trying to stop the weapon. She was trying to redirect it. 3 seconds. She adjusted the generator settings, pushing it beyond its limits. The bubble grew, stretched, changed shape. It was not a shield anymore. It was a lens, a focus point, a place where all the energy would come together and go somewhere else. 2 seconds. On the bridge of the Silent Paw, Dohan was screaming her name. Yunji had stopped flying, frozen with horror as she watched through the external cameras. Tai Wu was crying in the engine room. Myra had her hands pressed to her mouth. They could all see her. They could all see what she was about to do. 1 second. The 3 dreadnoughts fired. 3 beams of pure destruction, each one powerful enough to crack a planet's crust, converged on the tiny figure standing on the hull of a crippled frigate. The light was so bright that the cameras had to dim themselves. The energy was so intense that sensors across the sector picked it up, and Yuna held. The shield generator screamed, overloading, burning, failing. But for 1 second, then 2, then 3 impossible seconds, it worked. The energy hit Yuna's modified shield and split apart, scattering into space in 1,000 different directions. The silent paw shook from the nearby impact, but it did not break. It did not burn. The children survived. But the generator was never meant for this. And neither was the woman holding it. On the 4th second, the feedback surge came. All that energy, all that power, had to go somewhere. And it went through Yuna. The crew watched as lightning wrapped around their captain. They watched as her suit blackened and cracked. They watched as she stopped moving, her arms falling to her sides, the ruined generator floating away into space. And then they watched as she collapsed against the hull, completely still. "No," Yunji whispered. "No, no, no." The ship's medical sensors had automatically connected to Yuna's suit when she went outside. Now they displayed their readings on every screen on the bridge. Heart rate, 0. Brain activity, 0. Life signs, none detected. Captain Yuna was dead. Mireille was the first to scream. It was a terrible sound, full of pain and loss. The sound of a child watching her mother die. Then Jiwoo started crying, great heaving sobs that shook her whole body. Taiwu had gone silent in the engine room, his hands frozen over his controls. On the tactical display, the 3 dreadnoughts were moving again. Slowly, confidently, they approached the silent paw. Their weapons were recharging. They would be ready to fire again in less than a minute. "We need to get her inside," Don said. His voice was strange, flat, empty. "Mireille, Jiwoo, go to the airlock. Bring her home." "Doan," Yunji said through her tears. "The dreadnoughts. I know." He turned to face the view screen. Through the glass, he could see the 3 massive ships. He could see the alien commanders inside, probably celebrating their victory. They had killed the cat. They had broken the silent paw. Now they would finish the job and move on to the station. But they had made a mistake. They thought that killing Yuna would end the fight. They thought that orphans without their mother would scatter and run. They did not understand humans. They did not understand family. And they did not understand what happens when you take something precious from people who have already lost everything. Dohan had lost his colony at 17. He had lost his parents, his friends, his entire world. Yuna had saved him, given him a new family, a new purpose. She had taught him how to fight, how to lead, how to survive. And she had taught him something else, something the Valkyrie were about to learn. A wounded animal is dangerous. But an animal protecting its family, that's something else entirely. "Sungho," Dohan said quietly, "take over weapons." "Dohan, what are you?" "Hana, I need damage reports." "Taiwu, can the engines still run?" Slowly, the crew began to respond. They wiped their tears. They straightened their backs. They looked at Dohan, waiting, hoping, needing someone to tell them what to do. "The captain saved us," Dohan said. "She gave her life so we could live. And I am not going to let that sacrifice mean nothing." He turned to face them, and his eyes were burning with something cold and terrible. "She raised us. She trained us. She made us into the finest crew in the fleet. Now it's time to show these monsters what her children can do." Yunji's hands returned to the controls. Taiwu's voice came through the speakers, reporting that the engines were damaged but functional. Sungho cracked his knuckles and started targeting the lead dreadnought. Through the cameras, they could see Mireille and Jiwoo in their spacesuits. carefully lifting Yuna's body and carrying her back inside. Even in death, even burned and broken, she looked peaceful. She looked like she was sleeping. "Rest now, Mother," Do-hun whispered. "We'll take it from here." He opened the communication channel, broadcasting on all frequencies. The Valkyrie would hear this. The station would hear this. Everyone in this sector of space would hear this. "Attention, Valkyrie fleet. This is acting Captain Do-hun of the RSV Silent Paw. You just killed the woman who raised me, the woman who saved me, the woman I loved like a mother." He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was ice and fire and the promise of death. That was a mistake. The transmission ended, and the hunt began. In the medical bay of the Silent Paw, Myray worked with desperate hands. Yuna lay on the table, still and silent, her burned suit cut away to reveal the damage beneath. The readings still showed nothing. No heartbeat. No brain activity. Nothing. But Myray refused to give up. "Come on," she whispered, pressing the medical device against Yuna's chest. "Come on, Captain. Don't leave us. Please, don't leave us." The device sent an electric shock through Yuna's body. Nothing happened. Myray tried again. And again. And again. On the bridge, Do-hun watched the dreadnoughts approach. They were moving slowly, taking their time, enjoying the moment. The Valkyrie commanders probably thought this was over. They probably thought the little human ship would try to run or surrender. They had no idea what was coming. "Unji," Do-hun said calmly, "take us into the debris field. Pattern Sigma 7. "That pattern is insane," Yunji replied, but her hands were already moving. "If I miss a single turn, we'll crash into an asteroid." "You won't miss." The Silent Paw dove into the field of rocks and wreckage. Yunji flew like she had never flown before, spinning and twisting and sliding through gaps that seemed too small for the ship to fit. Behind them, the dreadnoughts tried to follow, but their massive size made them slow and clumsy in the tight spaces. "They're spreading out," Sung-ho reported, "trying to surround the debris field." "Let them." "Taiwu, how much power do we have?" "Engines are at 60%. Weapons at 40. Shields." Taiwu's voice cracked. "Shields are gone. The captain used all the backup power for her generator. Then we don't get hit." Do-hun studied the tactical display, his mind working faster than it ever had. "Ji-woo, I need you to hack into the Dreadnought's communication systems." "I can try, but their encryption is... I don't care about their messages. I want to access their navigation data. Show me their blind spots." Ji-woo's fingers flew across her keyboard. She was crying, tears streaming down her face, but her focus never wavered. This was what Yuna had taught them. You feel your pain, but you don't let it stop you. You use it. You turn it into fuel. "Got it," Ji-woo said after 30 seconds. "Sending to your display." Do-hun looked at the data and smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of a predator who had just found his prey's weakness. The middle dreadnought has a sensor gap on its lower port side. "Yunji, can you get us there without being seen?" "Through the debris field, using asteroid R-17 as cover." Yunji calculated quickly. "Yes, 30 seconds. Do it." "Sung-ho, target their secondary reactor. It's exposed in that blind spot. A secondary reactor won't destroy the ship." "No, but it'll hurt them. And right now, I want them to hurt." The Silent Paw moved like a ghost through the rocks, slipping closer and closer to the massive dreadnought. On the alien ship's bridge, the Valkyrie commander was probably feeling very confident. His weapons were charged. His prey was trapped. Victory was certain. Then Sung-ho fired. 4 precision shots, aimed perfectly at the exposed reactor. The explosions rippled across the dreadnought's hull, tearing open compartments, venting atmosphere into space. It wasn't a killing blow, but it was damage. Real damage. From a ship they had already written off as dead. The Volcari commander screamed orders in his clicking, hissing language. How had they missed the little human ship? How had it gotten so close? First blood, Dohan said quietly. Now let's give them more. For the next 20 minutes, the silent paw became a nightmare. Yunji flew through spaces that should have been impossible, using asteroids and debris as shields and weapons. Sung-Ho picked off sensors and weapons with inhuman accuracy. Jiwoo fed them constant updates on enemy positions and weaknesses, and Dohan commanded it all, turning their grief into something terrible and beautiful. The Volcari had never seen humans fight like this. They were used to battles of numbers and firepower, where the bigger fleet always won. They did not understand tactics born of desperation. They did not understand the fury of children who had just watched their mother die. They're adapting, Yunji warned. Learning our patterns. It won't work forever. It doesn't have to work forever. Just long enough. In the medical bay, Myray had tried everything. Every drug, every technique, every piece of equipment the ship had. Nothing worked. Yuna's body lay cold and still on the table, and Myray was running out of ideas. Please, she whispered, holding Yuna's hand. Please, Captain. We need you. We can't do this without you. And then, impossibly, the heart monitor beeped. Just once, weak and faint. But it was there. A heartbeat. Mara's eyes went wide. Ji-woo, tell Doan. She's alive. The captain is alive. The news spread through the ship like fire. Yuna was alive. Barely impossibly, but alive. Her heart was beating. Her brain was showing activity again. The universe had given them a miracle. On the bridge, Dohan felt something break open in his chest. Relief and hope and fresh fury all mixed together into something overwhelming. She's alive, he repeated. She's alive. Dohan, Yunji said softly. The dreadnoughts are pulling back, forming a defensive line. I think they're scared. He looked at the tactical display. She was right. The three massive ships had stopped advancing. They were grouping together, their weapons pointed outward, watching for the next attack. The mighty Valkyrie fleet, the terror of the galaxy, was afraid of one little frigate. Nohan opened the communication channel again. Attention, Valkyrie fleet. You heard our mother, and now you're scared of us. He let that sink in for a moment. You should be, because we're not done yet. We're going to tear your ships apart. We're going to send you running back to your empire with stories of what happened here today. And you're going to tell everyone you meet that humans are not prey. He paused, and his voice dropped to something cold and deadly. We're the predators. And you just made us very, very angry. The Volcari commanders heard every word. They did not understand human language, but their translation computers made the meaning clear. And for the first time in their long lives, they felt something they had never felt before. They felt fear. Run, Doan said simply. That's your only warning. They didn't run. That was their final mistake. The battle that followed would be remembered for 1,000 years. Historians would call it the miracle of Omega-7. They would write books about it, teach it in military academies, and use it as proof that humans were the most dangerous species in the galaxy. But to the 12 young people on the Silent Paw, it was something simpler. It was revenge. The three dreadnoughts had formed a defensive triangle, their shields overlapping, their weapons covering every approach. It was a strong formation, one that should have been impossible to break. But Dohan had learned from the best. And the best had taught him that impossible was just another word for not tried hard enough. Taiwu, he said, I need you to overload our 4 weapons. Overload them? That could blow up the whole front of the ship. Not if you time it right. Channel all the excess energy into a single burst. Can you do it? There was silence for a moment. Then Tai Wu's voice came back, steady and determined. For the captain? I can do anything. Yunji, I need you to fly straight at the lead dreadnought. Straight at it? No evasive maneuvers? No maneuvers. Make them think we've gone crazy. Make them focus all their weapons on us. And when they fire? Doan smiled. Pull up at the last second. Let the blast pass under us and hit the dreadnought behind. Yunji laughed, a wild and terrible sound. That's insane. I love it. The Silent Paw charged forward, engines screaming, weapons glowing with contained energy. On the Valkyrie ships, commanders watched in disbelief. The tiny human vessel was attacking? After everything that had happened? Were they stupid or suicidal? They did not understand. They could not understand. They had never loved anything enough to die for it. They had never lost anything precious enough to kill for it. They were insects, thinking in patterns and numbers, and they had no idea what they were facing. Every human on that ship had lost their world. Every human on that ship had found a new family, only to watch their mother sacrifice herself. And every human on that ship was ready to burn everything down in her name. The dreadnoughts fired. A wall of plasma and light rushed toward the Silent Paw, enough firepower to destroy a moon. Now, Doan commanded. Yunji pulled up so hard that everyone on the bridge felt their stomachs drop. The ship climbed vertically, engines fighting against physics as the enemy fire passed centimeters below their hull. And just as Doan had planned, those shots slammed into the second dreadnought. The Valkyrie had just attacked their own ship. Explosions rippled across the dreadnought's surface. Shields failed. Armor cracked. The vessel listed to the side, smoke and fire pouring from a dozen wounds. The Valkyrie commanders screamed at each other in their clicking language, trying to understand what had just happened. Sung-ho, now. Tai Wu's overloaded weapons fired, a single massive burst of energy that was more like a bomb than a normal shot. It hit the damaged dreadnought right in the center, right where the shields had failed, right where the hull was weakest. The ship broke in half. Two pieces of what had been one of the most powerful vessels in the galaxy drifted apart, burning and dead. Escape pods launched in every direction as the Valkyrie crew tried to flee their destroyed home. One down, Doan said. 2 to go. The remaining dreadnoughts broke formation, panicking. This wasn't supposed to happen. This couldn't happen. They were the Valkyrie, the conquerors of 100 worlds. They didn't lose to a single frigate, but they were losing, and they were starting to realize it. They're running, Yunji reported, amazement in her voice. The lead ship is turning away. They're trying to escape. No, Doan said simply. They don't get to run. Not after what they did. For the next 23 minutes, the Silent Paw hunted. Yunji flew like a demon, staying in the dreadnought's blind spots, never giving them a clear shot. Sung-ho picked apart their engines, their weapons, their shields. Jiwoo jammed their communications, leaving them alone and blind. Tai Wu kept the ship running through sheer force of will, fixing problems faster than they appeared. And in the medical bay, Myre watched over Yuna. The captain's vital signs were getting stronger. Her heart was beating normally. Her brain activity was increasing. She was fighting her way back from death itself. That's it, Captain, Myre whispered. Keep fighting. Your kittens are making you proud. When coalition reinforcements finally arrived, 2 hours after the battle began, they found something impossible. The Silent Paw was drifting among the wreckage of 3 Valkyrie dreadnoughts. 3, the most feared warships in the enemy fleet, destroyed by a single frigate and 12 young soldiers. Admiral Kang, the commander of the relief force, couldn't believe what he was seeing. What happened here? He demanded over the communications channel. Dohan's face appeared on the screen. He looked exhausted, covered in sweat and soot, but his eyes were calm. They hurt our captain, Dohan said simply. So we hurt them back. The medical ships from the relief force rushed to help the Silent Paw. They took Yuna to their best doctors, who marveled that she was alive at all. The energy that had passed through her body should have killed her instantly. Instead, she was breathing, healing, surviving. 3 days later, Yuna opened her eyes. She was in a white room, surrounded by machines and soft beeping sounds. Her body hurt in ways she couldn't describe, but she was alive. And sitting beside her bed, refusing to leave, was Dohan. "Report," she whispered, her voice rough and broken. Dohan took her hand, and for the first time in 3 days, he let himself cry. The station is safe. The dreadnoughts are destroyed. The enemy has requested a ceasefire. Yuna blinked slowly. Ceasefire? They're scared. Dohan laughed through his tears. The Volcari are actually scared of us. When word spread about what happened at Omega 7, they stopped advancing. They want to negotiate peace. How? We showed them what happens when you hurt a human family. He squeezed her hand gently. You taught us well, Mother. You raised us to be strong. And when you fell, we became something stronger. Yuna closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. I'm proud of you. All of you. We know. The door opened, and the rest of the crew filed in. Yoonji, Taiwu, Mai-Rei, Jiwoo, Sungho, Hana, and all the others. They gathered around Yuna's bed, crying and laughing and talking over each other. They told her about the battle, about the impossible things they had done, about the enemy ships burning in the void. And Yuna listened, her heart full, her family whole. The Valkyrie Empire never attacked human space again. Their commanders had seen the battle footage from Omega 7. They had watched 12 grieving children destroy their finest fleet. And they had finally understood something that humans had always known. When you hurt what a human loves, you don't create a victim. You create a monster. And monsters don't stop. Monsters don't forgive. Monsters hunt until there's nothing left to hunt. The kittens had cried when their mother fell. Then they had turned to the enemy and shown them why humans ruled the stars. Because love makes us weak. But losing love? That makes us unstoppable.